zoom, zoom, zoom.
So for now, we're chatting about something USA Today is calling Zoom fatigue, which you may be feeling. You know, it's work, it's with family, it's your kids, your grandkids. But there is something off-putting, as this article indicates, about seeing someone's face extremely close. It forces some odd subconscious responses. It's hard to stay focused.
The dynamics of conversing changes.
Yep. But more than that, I've seen, as my wife indicated with some of her work meetings, the guys could care less what they look like in a Zoom call. But all the women look like they normally do at the office. And I've seen her get stressed out about it. Janelle won't even turn her camera on.
For a different reason, partly. But there is a little of, goodness, this is a camera all up in my face that everybody can see.
We're trying to grapple with what women truly are facing in this. Because I think more than men, you're having to be concerned about what you look like. But it's causing stress.
Yeah. It's not as much, oh, are the men in the office, do they think I'm cute? I think it's trying to meet a standard. Women can be, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but there's something in us. We're very competitive with each other. We're very judgmental with each other. We make life harder for each other. But if we're honest, there are implicit messages that Christian men send to us.
What?
Yeah. So you can tell us, you guys look at us all the time. Beauty doesn't matter. It's not about the beauty.
Yeah,
it's not about all of that.
Beauty comes from within inside of the heart. Treat yourself.
But your reaction to beauty, no, listen, I ain't crazy. And I've seen it. And in my head, I'm like, you want to believe that beauty doesn't matter. And you want to send that message to us. But it doesn't come across in your everyday life all the time. You know what we're about to do? We're about to get real. We're about to have conversations that Christians have behind closed doors. The scary ones, the ones that make you feel uncomfortable. That's where we're going. Why? Because we're family. Ustedes son mi familia.
So this is the Brian and Janelle podcast. She's Janelle and I'm Brian. If you don't want to miss anything, all you have to do is just hit that subscribe button to get a notification whenever we drop a new episode. This is the Brian and Janelle podcast. One of my things I laugh about when I get home is occasionally I'll come home from work and Sarah will just be frantically trying to get herself put together.
Really? Together now? Why? Where's she going?
Well, that's the thing. Somebody in the office has called a Zoom meeting last minute.
Ooh.
And she hasn't done her hair or makeup or anything. And I keep telling her, who cares? And she's like, she just looks at me like I don't understand because I don't.
Yeah, she cares.
Yeah, she does care. And then I even look at the double standard of the whole thing where she said they had this get together with her colleagues by Zoom. And the guys were all looking a mess. Like their hair was all crazy, wearing nasty stuff. They didn't care. They got like unshaven, all this stuff.
Wow.
Right. And the women looked, and Sarah was like, hey, this is interesting. All the women look like we do in the office. Yep. But you guys don't. So apparently guys don't care about putting themselves together.
That's actually a surprise because when we do Zoom meetings here, which I'm actually going to share something later about that, it's kind of like almost right after we're here. So I'm already put together. But as a person that hasn't worked for decades, I've been home. I thought the expectation was that in a Zoom meeting, even if you're home, you're supposed to look like you're in the office, right? So like I can't picture Len walking out of his bed and just sitting like that. Isn't that expected?
I don't have that
What
expectation.
are guys doing? You're a guy. So you just sit there and not comb your hair.
I have the opposite question. What are women worried about? You're not in the office. Just put your hair in a
that's
ponytail
cool.
and who cares? Like, I don't care. Do people care?
If you could do a ponytail and look decent at it.
Okay, good. Something.
I imagine. But yeah.
But not makeup, you're saying, necessarily.
I understand why women do that. They're very self-conscious about the image they project and what other people will think. And they know what they think when they see a woman who hasn't bothered to get makeup on. So they don't want other people to think of them that way.
Yeah.
So it's a women judging women problem.
You know, that's actually a whole segment we can have. Man, I had this conversation with someone. We're more worried about women, especially married women, than we are about men, which is so like we should just get together and just excuse each other and be like, girl,
Yep.
it don't matter. And then just kind of release the pressure. It's about women.
Because I got to be honest, if Ron and you and our station manager and I, we had a Zoom call and you were like not all done up, I can't imagine any of us would even say anything during the
You
call or
wouldn't
afterwards.
say anything, but you'd be like, oh, you don't
And
look
then-
like that in the office.
And then afterwards, I would not even think about it or care.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have done any sort of extensive preparation to look decent.
See, the thing with Zoom is so focused on your face. You can't get lost
Yeah, 'cause-
in the meeting.
Because let's be honest, we've had a couple of Zoom calls
Yes, I know.
as a team with some folks in Chicago as we're planning for some things.
Yeah.
There's one person out of like 8 that never turns her camera
Who
on.
is that?
Never turns it on. In fact, instead, there's a profile picture of a professional photo of her.
I have a reason. I have a good
Janelle
reason.
never turns the camera on. Maybe she's got a case of Zoom fatigue, as USA Today is
Yeah.
indicating. We got to talk about this because maybe the cause really has nothing to do with the men in your office or on your team.
Or how I look. Well, actually, I'm going to tell you. There's
So-
a whole lot of virtual meetings going on. Goodness.
Yeah, I like because I don't have to go anywhere. That's my favorite.
Are you surprised that there's Zoom fatigue
Uh,
versus people like because there is some of it that's good. You're home now.
I don't know. I'm cynical, so just have us not in quarantine. I'll have meeting fatigue.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Between the two, if you had your choice, wouldn't you prefer the Zoom? Depending on who's there. Some meetings have a certain chemistry that's
Yeah.
fun to attend. But typically, most meetings you go to are probably pretty boring and you're trying to find a way to get out. And there's always that one person, oh, I have a question.
Or that one person who loves to just crack jokes and say extra things to make the meeting really long.
Brian.
Brian.
Oh my goodness.
Me? Me? So before we get to Janelle, why Janelle will never be on video on a call,
Oh.
USA Today says, hey, a few Zoom calls for work in the morning, logging your children into a virtual classroom around lunchtime, and a FaceTime call with your parents at the end of the day. As social distancing remains in effect across the country during the pandemic, people are moving from one video call to another. But there may be an unintended effect. Mental health and communications experts warn Zoom fatigue, or the feeling of tiredness, anxiousness, or worry with yet another video call. By the way, side note, I had to do one of these like Zoom things for my kids.
Ooh, yes.
And I can't just leave my second grader with my computer
How do you-
unattended.
Yeah.
I had to sit through his little. Second grade's awesome in second grade, but when you're 41, it's like, whoa, it's like paint dry.
Yeah, man.
And,
what were they talking about? A book they read?
Poetry or something. But I had to sit there because he's not touching my computer.
Oh my
And
goodness.
all these issues, I just sit through I had Zoom fatigue from that
Ah.
business.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So this expert says, quote, when we're on all these video calls all day long, we're kind of chained to a screen. It's just psychologically off-putting. I've got to show up again, but the thing is, we're not really showing up anywhere.
Yeah.
So as they describe it, it says, from having to focus on 15 people at once in a gallery view or worrying about how you appear as you speak, a number of things may cause someone to feel anxious or worried in a video call. Any of these factors require more focus or mental energy than a face-to-face meeting might, which I think is true. It's a different type of communication that none of us are necessarily used to.
Especially at home. When we're here and we meet, okay, I'm meeting. When we have Zoom meetings and I'm at home, I have to think about where am I going to go so that it's not crazy.
Right.
Or I'll put it on mute. There was one time we had a meeting and it was with people in Chicago. And I was like, oh my goodness, the kids were eating. Kids are everywhere because I homeschool. So they're always in my house. And I put it on mute. And then they asked me a question. I was like,
That happened just like Friday where somebody asked you a question and we were like,
I know.
because we couldn't see you.
Goodness.
And then you had to unmute it. So you were like,
Oh.
you were probably just searching for the mute button.
Yes. And then I'm sure parents are going through this now, but like sometimes I just like run to the car, but then it's like cold. So then you got to warm the car up. So I'm just wondering if that adds to the fatigue, where if you just walk in a meeting, you're like, it's set. You're
Well,
sit,
because
listen.
to me, I think one of the culture that's developing around these Zoom meetings is that if you don't turn your camera on, you're a little bit of a slacker. Like they're
Seriously?
like, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying
Yeah.
you're sitting there going, I've got to keep eye contact. I've got to stay focused. I've got to look. But this joker gets to do whatever they want.
Right.
Can I
They're
ask
not
a
paying
question,
attention.
though? Okay, so before Zoom, even in a meeting, if we're in a meeting, in a conference call, and I'm not talking, you're not looking to see, is Janelle looking? Is Janelle paying attention?
Oh,
We're just
people are.
sitting there listening.
Oh, no, people are. You just can't tell because it's not direct face contact.
Okay, and then before that, right? So if you had a meeting you had to have with people in Florida and California, you would get on a conference call. It wasn't
Right.
an issue if you're
No
looking or
video.
not looking. You just talk.
Well, yeah, because
So now with this Zoom, where's this requirement about
Well,
turn your video on?
it's a different situation because when you're on a conference call, everyone is in the same playing field, which is audio.
Yeah.
But when you're in a video conference, it sort of demands. I'm not trying to be hard on you
No,
because
no,
I've been there
I'm
too,
good.
where I turn it off because I need to multitask for some reason, or
Yeah.
my kids are running around, or my dogs are barking, or
Yeah.
something. I get it, and I think when they're talking about Zoom fatigue in here, I think you're going to like some of what they say because it says a combination of having prolonged eye contact
Yeah.
and having someone's enlarged face extremely close to you forces certain subconscious human responses. Like we don't like close talk. We're not close talkers in our culture.
Yeah.
So a big Brian face in there is off-putting.
Oh, goodness,
Handsome,
people.
but
Yes.
off-putting. And you don't like that part of it.
I don't. Now, partly is all the background things that are going on during the meeting. That's difficult for me to try to control. There have been meetings where literally I'm like driving on my way home, and it's difficult. We're talking about with fatigue. Not only being engaged, it's a call, so I feel safe because I just mount my phone and it's on Bluetooth. But then it's like if I turn the video on, now I got to be worried about how I look and all
Do
of
you
that.
remember what happened Friday?
That I was at McDonald's.
Somebody asked you a question and you were in the drive-thru.
Yes.
You're like, sorry, guys, hold on a minute.
Yes.
Yeah, change. Yeah, here you go. I'll take it. Yeah.
It's so bad. Oh. But then the other thing is, I like turning it off because this is bad, and maybe this is where the slacker thing comes off. If I'm not talking and the video's on and I'm in a parking lot, sometimes I'll pull over and just be in a parking lot. I can recline the seat. I can eat my fry and not, like, I could just chill.
You must eat all crazy. if
And
you can't
be
have people
in the
watching.
meet because I'm on the show. So when the meeting comes on,
Oh, I
like,
get it.
I'm like, dude, I could just listen and be engaged and just recline my seat and
See,
be at the meeting.
before this whole thing happened, Zoom was beginning to become more popular for companies that have multi-sites around the country.
Right.
And the biggest complaint you would have heard from folks is they can't multitask during the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you're not looking at the camera, everybody knows.
Yeah.
So if you're not undivided attention,
Yes.
it's clear that you're not paying attention.
Oh, that's a lot.
And it looks worse. I mean, you can
Yeah.
be mentally engaged while you're listening
Yeah.
and doing something else, but it looks like you've totally lost
Yes.
interest in the meeting.
So do you have a solution so we don't look like slackers, Brian?
Well, there are some solutions offered in this. We're going to get to that in just a minute, but I think there's more to talk about in it because I don't think it's anyone trying to be a slacker by any means. It's exhausting
Oh, yeah.
to have to, quote unquote, behave like that during a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's
And
exhausting.
then when you're around the conference table, as a woman, because I know we got issues in this area.
I'm sorry, what?
We have issues.
Wait, I didn't hear that. There must be. Is there something
got
wrong with
problems.
Mike here? Mike is,
We do care what we look like. And so if I'm in a 10-person meeting, I'm sorry, y'all, if I sound superficial, but I'm speaking out for that quiet little voice that speaks into like most women. When you speak up, you don't have all 9 people looking all dead in your face and getting all up close. With Zoom, you do.
we can still see you from far away.
It's just different. You can see that pimple that's about to come out, and that's what I'm thinking.
I can
Like,
see that from
ooh,
across
look
the
here.
table.
Like,
I've never seen that in my life.
oh, goodness.
But no, I think it's worth talking about because I don't think men are per se the problem in this.
No, they're not. I could speak into that a little bit.
And I've seen my wife get real stressed out about Zoom calls, and I just haven't felt it as much. It's awkward, of course. I can't multitask as I could before as well, and so on. But you're stuck looking at somebody. You see them up closer than you
Yeah.
normally do. You can tell when they're not paying attention to you. You got to be on. And when
And
someone turns off the camera,
Yeah, go ahead.
everybody's kind of like, why is your camera not on?
Seriously? Why, though? Oh, goodness. Okay, go ahead.
But
Because you have a Bible verse.
with that in mind, I'd love to get your reaction to this good old Peter. You like Peter?
He's not my favorite. Paul is, but
Wow.
I'll take Peter. Go ahead.
Peter's pretty great. And First Peter 3, he was writing specifically to wives, but women in general. And he said in First Peter 3:3, your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry and fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is great worth in God's sight.
That's deep.
Or, turn off your camera.
No, I'll take that.
Worry about how you look.
I will take that. And I'm familiar with that verse. But if
What
we're
is
going
it about
to keep
women,
it
though?
real, if we're going to keep it real, men and women have insecurities. So we know that. And we may even walk in that. But on our day-to-day lives, you have insecurities. For some, it could be, that pimple I have this week. For others, it's like, the extra weight that I picked up in the last 2 months, or especially the COVID weight.
It's a very real thing. I'm sure men go through that as well. But I find it interesting that I think this is primarily women to women concern.
Yes, it is.
Because I can guarantee you, I don't know if I've met a man who would be like, boy, did you see her? She's not. It's just, we don't
gained 2 pounds.
Like, we don't do that.
We don't notice.
And again, I've talked about this with my friends about realizing, oh my goodness, I think a lot of the times when we have insecurities, it could be not necessarily the way you look, but the way you're presenting yourself. It could be, we hung out at the restaurant. Did I dress appropriate? Or how did I pick up weight? Or how's my makeup looking? And a lot of times, let's say in a Zoom call, let's say you have one other or two other women that are in that Zoom call, and they did do the ponytail and the makeup. In your mind, it could make you feel like, oh my goodness, look, I'm really looking like a mess. I'm just keeping it real in terms of thoughts we go through. It's not as much, are the men in the office, do they think I'm cute? I think it's trying to meet a standard. Women can be, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but there's something in us. We're very competitive with each other. We're very judgmental with each other. It's actually something close to my heart that I've been wanting to have women come together and talk about and just put it on the table, because I think we make life harder for each other. We judge each other a lot. We're very catty with each other.
And then you blame it on us, by the way.
It hurts me to say this because I don't think it's outside of the church. I think it's in the church. You see it at women's Bible study or women's whatever. There's that little, isn't that sad? It's sad to say. I'm just telling you stuff that's like in dark corners that we don't bring up. And I want to bring these up because I think a lot of times it stands in the way of true fellowship. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a heartbreaker for a number of reasons because, I mean, one of them, I don't want to see you, my friend, go through that. I don't want to see my wife go through that. It's not fun. Number two, y'all are blaming men for what you do to each other.
When do we blame men?
When don't you blame men? How about that? Ron, go ahead.
It's true. At least we feel that. Maybe you don't intend to or realize it, but we feel kind of like it's always, I have to, it's the men that are making me wear high heels so my legs look nicer, or
no, we don't care.
Whatever hemline is, the fashion stuff, that's all you guys, or some cabal of people in New York who probably are not straight men in that group. There'd be women and gay men there, and they are all about the fashion. Most of us out here in middle America, we're not really all that into the fashion. Just you look yourself.
And see, I'm trying to figure out that I don't have an answer to this in the midst of that, women being hard on each other and judging each other.
Yes.
Should you be comfortable just showing up as you are in a Zoom call, or is this fine to like a neutral to go like, I want to look put together?
Well, if I asked Len, for example, he would say you are treated based. There is a part, whether we like it or not. It matters how you present yourself to the world.
It does. And it matters for men in the workplace, too. Yeah. Trust me, but this is a whole different circumstance when we're all doing Zoom calls, even with hanging out with family.
Yeah. I do think I know personally, there are parts of me that needs to stop caring. And in fact, there's a woman I kind of look up to, and this woman ain't caring what she looks like on video on Facebook. She looks like Ron said, her ponytail's up, but it's not about all that other stuff. Is my makeup looking right? And do I have a cute shirt on? It's more about her content and her passion and her personality and her laugh. And so I do think there's that part of me that I need to check. and focus on other things.
Would you rather be
I'm
that
sorry.
way, or are you
if
fine?
and whoever's out there saying, wow, she's immature, sorry. I'm just sharing, I think a lot of us have that and we carry that. There's this thing based on women being judgmental. I love this. It says, be the woman who fixes another woman's crown without telling the world that it was crooked. And that's what I hope. I hope that. Why are you laughing?
I'm
You
laughing
don't like it?
because there's judgment in there. Her crown was crooked. You're helping her fix it. while it's
Oh
on.
my goodness. Wow. That's not what I saw.
Like when I heard that, like a guy wouldn't even notice it's crooked. He'd been like, "Oh, she's got a crown on. Great." You're like, "Oh, quietly
okay.
help her. She doesn't know she's a mess."
It's the new style, like baseball caps when they started tilting them.
Yeah. See?
Wow, I don't know what to do with y'all. Nick has help. He says, Janelle, you could always go Amish. Then they don't do anything with their hair because it's covered.
And they're not wearing their makeup.
My goodness.
Good point.
I want to dig in more to the psychology of this, the stress for women behind Zoom calls, what the source of it is and what to do about it.
Can we understand? We know there's scripture, but you have women in your life. I mean, this is a real thing. To just be like, well, just focus on the beauty comes from within. There's confidence and there's insecurities and there's reasons for that. So
And I've got answers.
you have even said, don't dismiss people with like scripture. Well, the Lord says don't fear.
But it's fun to use my own words.
Oh, see?
But no, I actually have a direct response that I have to my wife on that because I've talked to her about that before. We can talk about that in a few minutes. So for now, we're chatting about something USA Today is calling Zoom fatigue, which you may be feeling. It's work, it's with family, it's your kids, your grandkids on the school Zoom calls. My second grader had one the other day. It's just so weird seeing second graders in a Zoom call. But I get it. It's a great way to connect with a teacher and see your classmates. But there is something off-putting, as this article indicates, about seeing someone's face extremely close. It forces some odd subconscious responses. Side conversations are totally lost in Zoom calls. We can't have those anymore. People who are naturally reserved may never get a word in. Others get distracted by people in their own house. It's hard to stay focused.
Even my son had a meeting with his swim team, and he was bothered by something that I noticed. But when he brought it up, I was like, oh my gosh, that is exhausting. The dynamics of conversing changes. If you talk on top of each other even a little bit, it messes everything up. So then you got to like pause extra. And
Yep.
that's annoying.
Because you can't hear and such.
Yeah.
But more than that, I've seen, as my wife indicated with some of her work meetings, the guys could care less what they look like in a Zoom call. But all the women look like they normally do at the office. And I've seen her get stressed out about it. Janelle won't even turn her camera on.
For a different reason, partly.
So you can go through the drive-thru at McDonald's like you did on Friday.
No, because you can relax a little bit. But there is a little of, goodness, this is a camera all up in my face that everybody can see.
But I think it's managers' intention to have some level of accountability.
Yeah.
That you're actually paying attention to the meeting.
Right.
Because you can't multitask during it. But in the midst of that, we're trying to grapple with what women truly are facing in this. Because I think more than men, you're having to be concerned about what you look like. And should you be? I'm not certain there's this clear biblical admonition that, like, no, you should just have no makeup or that, yes, you have to have it. But it's causing stress.
Yeah. Gary and Talmadge, hey, what do you have for this conversation?
Good morning. You hit the nail on the head, Janelle. Keep up your good work there, everyone of you.
Hey, Gary. Woo! No applause for Gary.
She likes your call.
No, the beauty comes from within inside of the heart. Personally, I don't care if a lady has makeup on or any fancy stuff because our society has us to the point where they're selling us to look pretty. And ladies are a little bit more self-conscious than guys are. And we all need words of encouragement. When a lady is dead tired, I believe that they actually look pretty then. Because you know that they've done work and you know that they are stressed out with the things that they got to do with taking care of the family.
Yeah.
And men need to jump in and help them out more than they really do.
Yeah. So many of us men need to jump in more so that they don't have to get stressed out about all that. But what do you think about women getting done up for Zoom meetings? Is that something they ought to be worried about?
No. Be yourself.
And I can see women across Northeast Ohio rolling their eyes at you, Gary, even though they love you, going like, easy for you to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, you could dress up a pig, but you still got a pig.
I know what you meant by that, Gary. I know what you meant by
That's
that.
nothing personal.
No, yeah,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I know.
No,
That's why I
It's
said
hard
it.
to understand the next nut next to you. Nothing personal there either.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love it. Gary, how long you been in the
Because
family?
You do not know what a person is like on the inside of their heart until you have a minute to sit and talk with them.
That's right. That's right. Good point,
I
Gary.
got a lady starting with me today that I've known for years, and she's an amputee from halfway down her elbow. She got in a car accident because she was tired. And, she's a beautiful person. I haven't seen her in years. And I asked her what her passion is. And she says, being an automotive mechanic. You know what? I got a position for you in my little pet company here.
I love
And
it,
I'm
Gary.
not even going to give a plug to it because I don't need to. You guys know what I'm doing.
Gary, thank you so much for your thoughts on this today and for your encouragement. How long you been in the Moody Radio family?
I'm going to say about 2.5 years, and I accidentally found you guys.
Really?
Ooh.
And I don't think it was an accident. I think it was a godsend, quite frankly.
Aw.
So how did it happen?
I was looking for another Christian radio station. I had an old drunken up radio from the past that this LED doesn't work on it, so I had to keep hitting scan. And I just bumped into Moody Radio, and I just love what Moody Radio has done because that goes all the way around the world. And, that's just a beautiful vision because, we got the world in our hand. It's a God-given world, and we got to appreciate the beauty in nature.
Yeah, we do, Gary. Thanks so much for your comments today. And I'm so glad the Lord called you to us through scanning.
Yeah.
That's how it happens sometimes.
There was something that Gary said that you reacted to that I kind of want to circle back around to. When he was like, just be yourself. And you said, I know a lot of women are rolling their eyes. Women are competitive and we do a lot of this to each other. But if we're honest, there are implicit messages that Christian men send to us.
What?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So you can tell us, you guys look at us all the time. Beauty doesn't matter. It's not about the beauty.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't.
not about all of that. But there are some men, and I've seen it, and it's actually disappointing, that have side conversations about, oh, did you see so-and-so? And she's so cute. Or your reaction to beauty. No, listen, I ain't crazy. And I've seen it. And in my head, I'm like, we do it to our kids. Like you can say something in terms of what you believe, but when you walk it differently, you really show what's in your heart. So I do think that even within the Christian church, men have issues with this. You want to believe that beauty doesn't matter. You want to, and you want to send that message to us. But it doesn't come across in your everyday life all the time. We're looking at an article from USA Today that's highlighting Zoom fatigue. And we're looking at different interactions in our everyday life and seeing that the fatigue, maybe it's more for women than men, with a camera zoomed into our face, right? For everybody to see up close and personal. But even talking about some of the insecurities that women have, ladies, I think a lot of the judgment and competition and insecurities come from our own sisters in Christ. We do it to each other. But there's something about men and the way they talk about women when we're around and when we're not around that sends a message contradictory to what you're saying, Brian. So because Brian needs a little help in this area, I do it. Let's say with trying to tell my daughter who's 8, and a lot of this is showing up earlier because we women are like this. Beauty doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you weigh. It matters how healthy you are. I tell her that all the time, right? Especially about weight. And then she has to see me weighing myself almost every day, which I've tried to control. She sees me worried about, oh, should I eat this? Should I not? She sees the whole family eating cake, my favorite cake, and they're laughing because they know it's and I say no. What message am I sending her? Weight does matter. Of course, we want to say, okay, no, it's about health. But she knows because she's asking and she's watching. So I'm bringing that up, Brian, to help you, right? We all do that. We say one thing intellectually, and then we send a different message with our actions. I'm going to get to your calls, but I like this text and I want to read it. From a woman who's a listener saying, as a woman, I am competitive. I agree. But men do play a role in this, not because they care what we wear, though, because of the perspective that men are more important than women. All throughout time, women have not had equally or same rights. Boys get raised with the boys will be boys theory and makes women have to grow up quicker and be more cautious. Of course, all of this makes us competitive. I feel like I'm fighting more for my status as a second-class citizen, even with God, since men are biblically head of households. So there's the men-women dynamic. And then she agrees that men do care and with their comments. And we'll get to Anonymous in Akron. What are your thoughts on the Zoom meetings and appearance?
Hey, Brian and Janelle, how y'all doing?
Good.
Good. It's kind of like on a topic, but it's more or less to call and thank you guys. This is my second time calling, and I called a while ago. And there was a time where y'all was talking about issues and marriages and all that stuff. And I am still married, but we're in the counseling and everything. And I just wanted to thank you guys for, Brian, you had ended the call with prayer.
Oh.
And since then, me and my wife is in counseling, and your prayer is still working through us and in us from Christ. And I just wanted to call and thank you both guys for being there at a low point in my thought pattern.
Well, to God be all the glory, because he's doing that work in your life, and he's just using us little goofy people to do that occasionally. I'm so grateful to hear that. That's such a wonderful update. It's exciting, man. God bless you. Thanks for that.
Okay. And as far as the comment go, I don't think that zooming in and all that would be, as far as identity crisis or whatever. Like men, we're visual creatures. And a lot of times when you marry someone, you kind of lose track of the visual part, and you just become your everyday you and everything like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with putting on pounds or all of that other stuff, as long as you don't get away from, hey, date night at home, still dress up and look good, and as long as the men keep complimenting the woman, in spite of all her insecurities, I think she would still be secure knowing that, hey, I still catch his eye.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that.
Great points, Anonymous. Love hearing from you. And again, may God keep working on your marriage, my friend. I love it.
Michael in Stowe, what do you have for this conversation on Zoom meetings?
Yeah, so I think it's a confusing time. Like, at what point do you say this is too much getting dressed up, I'm still at home, or I look too much like I just rolled out of bed? So that's a difficult balance. And then you take that, and guys, for the most part, don't go get their hair done every 6 weeks, but ladies do, especially when they start needing to color their hair. So they've missed 2 appointments now, so that's another.
No, he didn't. He said 2. You counting.
At least 2.
It has to be difficult to get right up on, zoomed in on for a conference meeting when you probably got some roots that no one's ever seen before. So what do? You try to do it yourself, fry all your hair out, and then that next meeting.
So you're saying you kind of understand the fact that women might be a little more stressed about the Zoom calls?
Yeah, it's just a practical kind of undergoing this new world where you can't go out and get yourself done. And then to what extent do you do yourself? If you are able to do yourself up, don't need to worry about going to have your hair done. So it's just, I'm trying to be more sympathetic, I guess.
See that? You're a smart man, Michael.
All right. Well, cool. Thank you for taking my call, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for everything.
You bet. Thanks, Michael. What about me?
No. Did you see how he understood? You didn't even bring that up. Not only do we have to get on Zoom meetings more often, but the salons are closed, Brian. Do you understand how stressful that is?
I shave my head. I get it.
He has to have women in his life that's like, man, baby, I get it.
But
He's smart.
Perhaps it's a me being weird thing. You correct me on this. But when I met Sarah, we were both working for a parks department. And we were sweaty and had grass-stained shirts.
Yeah.
No makeup, hair pulled up. I fell in love with her like that. I mean, I like when she gets all done up and dressed up.
Yeah.
She looks beautiful. But like, I just don't I have a harder time relating to the idea that for a Zoom call, somebody needs to get all done up and get stressed out about it. I understand it's close up or whatever, but
it's close up.
It's harder for me to
Cameras
understand.
catch stuff.
Because I don't think it's men who are hanging up the Zoom call going, "Boy, did you see her? She looks like she's a mess."
No,
like,
it's
guys aren't doing
women.
that.
We
It's
do
women
that.
doing that.
We do that. And so are we proposing a solution? Can you help us? Since men don't do that to each other.
Right.
Maybe just post a professional photo of yourself like some people
Hey,
do.
yeah.
And then
So I
just
got it figured out.
hang out and go through the McDonald's drive-thru while I'm sitting at my desk having to pay attention. Let's go to Annie in Pennsylvania. Annie, what say you on this issue of perhaps women having more pressure in these Zoom meetings?
Oh, Brian, you don't have enough time for everything I have to say about this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love it already.
Oh, yeah, you do. No, I get it. There is this dichotomy. I've told my daughter I have 2 boys and a beautiful daughter in between those 2 boys. Sometimes it's the rose between 2 thorns, and other times it's the thorn between 2 roses.
Uh-oh.
It depends on the day. They're all grown up. But I've told my boys, and Haley has heard me say it, if half of one of us is in this room, you are still outnumbered. Because girls have attitude, guys have muscles. What do you think is stronger?
Uh-oh. Yes.
And I mean, and you don't lie. I mean, we are kind of socialized to be that way. And how we look and how we act and how we speak is sometimes our, I don't want to use the word weapon, but maybe it's our tool.
Yeah.
Whereas the boys can kind of duke it out and then it's over. And I will tell you, it was much more difficult to deal with my daughter in a snit than it was to deal with the boys once, you had it out and it was done.
Oh, yeah.
Annie from Pennsylvania said it. Brian did not.
Annie,
But I can tell you I've had the same experience.
Do you agree,
Yes,
Annie,
sir.
that we women put undue pressure on each other in this area?
Yeah, I think we do, but why? And I don't think that's a question we're going to be able to answer.
Yeah.
Do we do that because that's how we've been socialized or nurtured? Or I don't know. I struggle with it. I know professionally, I told you before, I'm a family physician training in a residency program. I know a lot of nurses. I know a lot of doctors. And sometimes even in our own profession, I've heard it said, we eat our young. It's so competitive.
Yes.
That we sometimes, and the underlying thing is really how do we support each other?
Yeah.
And, I've come to work looking pretty rough in scrubs and on night float and, and I don't know. And my significant other is a blue collar worker who drives a front loader, and he's a jeans, boots, t-shirt, ball cap, rough, dirty hands kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And he can make comments about women that sometimes aren't very kind. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just putting that out there. I don't really have a solution. I'm glad you guys are talking about it. And I would say, Janelle, when I listen to your voice, I wouldn't care what you look like because you are beautiful.
Oh, Annie, thank you.
What about me, Annie?
You're welcome. Brian.
Yeah.
Just DDG, drop dead gorgeous, buddy.
Oh,
I get it all the time.
Yeah.
Whoa. Guilty as charged. And you're a lot of fun.
Listen, y'all. Last week was my first call to you, so my travel mug's already on the way. You don't even have to reward me because that came from the heart.
I remember you,
coming
Annie.
out.
You're my
Yes,
girl. You need to keep it going. Keep the calls coming.
Well, that's what I love about you guys. I feel like I'm sitting down with friends to talk, and you make everybody feel like you are so glad they called and so glad they're a part of your family. So thank you for what you do.
Hey.
We're all beautiful in his sight, people.
Preach it.
Yes.
Amen. Thanks, Annie. But I will say I think there is a balance here somewhere because I don't want this to end having it sound like I'm saying, just look nasty. It's fine. I mean,
you're still beautiful.
Because I think, like so many things in Scripture, it guides us towards our heart motive.
Yeah.
And I've had my wife tell me very specifically, she said, listen, I'm not getting done up for anybody else. She says, I feel more confident when I put a little bit of makeup on and when I comb my hair and when I get ready to go. And if that's your heart motive, great. How could that be a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think perhaps there's a lot of thinking that has to go into how much pressure women are feeling in all this.
There is a lot of thinking. There's what she said, it does impact your confidence. I love what Len says about it matters how you present yourself to the world. I mean, it matters because that's what he's teaching our boys as well. But we do have to address, if there's an inkling of insecurity in that, just address it and be honest about it and not dismiss it. Even when women come to you and are honest about it, there's scripture that talks to it. But address it. Don't just say, well, the Lord said you're beautiful inside, so, you know.
Conversation over.
Yeah, address it for real, because we need each other. So
you're going to turn your camera on now for Zoom calls with Moody?
if I can eat my fries during the meeting, then I'll do it.
Did someone say you couldn't?
And then I'm driving. Wouldn't that distract you to watch me driving? I got to get home. No? I got to pull over.
This is Drop Dead Gorgeous and Janelle.
Wow, you missed the beautiful?
Oh, yeah, and beautiful.
You're going to hold on to that one. Are you going home and telling Sarah? Listen, I am Drop Dead Gorgeous.
I feel like I'm going to adjust it to Drop Dead Handsome, but...
Why?
I don't know. Do I want to be gorgeous?
Guys can be gorgeous, yeah. That's like a special category of guys.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When it comes from a woman, it's okay.
Okay, well, I'll embrace it. So don't you call me that, Ron.
No,
in fact,
I would never.
Would you stop that? It's getting a little awkward how often you keep saying that.
Okay, DDG.
Oh, man. Hey, hold up. Where are you going? You know you liked your time with us. You want more. So look down, hit that button right there, subscribe, and you'll get updated episodes, and then you can hang some more.
And guess what? You can help us. How? A 5-star rating.
You can also hang with us live, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m., interact with us, talk with us, download the Moody Radio app.
Or at brianandjanelle.org.
And we don't put all this together all by ourselves. There's some great people behind all this production. We want to thank Ron Eastwood, Kelly Ryder, Paul Carter, Doug Hayner, Mike Reynolds, and our awesome and fearless leader, Josue Villa.
And finally, this podcast is a production of Moody Radio in Cleveland, a ministry of Moody Bible Institute.
Well, Brian, that's a wrap.
Yep.